Continuing my rebuild of the Caverns ZX81 program never released on the ZX81. Having got a single screen loading working in the last video, it's time to start the game loop and look at simple input. Various websites discuss input on the spectrum, and recently Jim Bagley has covered it in a walkthrough on his YouTube channel. Input is read from 8 Z80 ports from hex FE onwards. Bits are set to 0 for keys that are pressed and 1 if not pressed. This method allows multiple keys to be pressed at the same time, as required in most games. A simple example from the Rake Into the Program website shows how to check if the Q key is pressed. For my purposes at this stage building the menus, I just wanted to know which key is pressed singly. I hooked up a keyboard input routine and built it into my game loop. My code now looked like this. A startup assembly file that included other parts of the code from the separate ASM files. New files had been added to import binaries, run the game loop, and a read key file. The binaries file simply imported a list of binary files to be used by the program. The startup file simply called the game loop. The game loop looked like this. First the Cavern splash screen was displayed, then the loop. This called a keyboard routine and checked if a key was pressed. If non-pressed, then loop again. Then call a routine to check if any of the keys used by the menus were pressed. If they were, then call the relevant screen to be loaded. Going back to the loop, if the X key was pressed, the game would exit, blanking the screen and displaying the ZX81 inverted K cursor. The game was now working on the next to the same point I got to with the ZX81 Z80 assembler code and the 81 emulator. I could start on the splash screen, press M for the menu, press I for the first intro screen, then N for the second intro screen, M back to the menu, and display the 6 game screens using keys 1 to 6. I intend to write the Z80 for the next in such a way that it can be ported back to the Z81, so eventually I will be able to swap out the display and input routines, and it will work on the Z81. I may not get it running in 16K, but larger RAM packs are available for the ZX81 that it should run on. One development tip I found was to put the .nex file in the root folder of the next image file, so you don't need to go into folders to run it each time in the emulator, speeding up development. Now I can start adding game features. I could add the menu screen options, the block dropping, or the lifts moving as the next step, but that's for another day.